Morning. First, I'd like to start with a confession. Tim, I had a ghetto blaster. It was as big as this, and I could have done with one of your diggers to move it when I moved out about 6 months ago. But it is amazing how quickly technology is moving forward and how things are working. As it says on here, my name's Craig Wakeman. No, it doesn't. You said my name would be up there. My name's Craig Wakeman. I work for the Combined Authority. I think my gaffer has just recently left, Andy Street, who's the mayor of the Combined Authority. And my job with Andy was to deliver the HS2 growth strategy to government in 2015. Now, what we were tasked with by government was to actually come up with an idea of how the West Midlands could support businesses and people around this region to maximise the opportunity for HS2. But we started in the traditional way. We started by looking at it as most other infrastructure programmes. So we started to look at it in the first place as to this. What was HS2? Well, at the time, Sir David Higgins was going around the country explaining how quick it was going to be to get to London. And we went through this whole period of time where everybody kept saying, all that means is people are going to go to London, all the skills are going to migrate to London, all the jobs are going to go to London, etc., etc. So one of the first things that we had to do was actually get underneath that and think, hang on a minute, what does this mean for this region? In reality, what does this mean for people? What does this mean for businesses? Andy touched on the stations earlier on. A key part of HS2 are the stations, without any shadow of a doubt. They bring around about a catalyst for regeneration, for growth, for new business. It's about creating a place, a new destination. Here in the West Midlands, we have the interchange station at the airport, and we also have the one in Curzon Street. Now, what we want them to be is iconic statements to the world, so that in 20 years' time, people are in Barcelona saying, this is what the West Midlands did with a high-speed railway in this country. But it's not all about that either. But they do act for catalysts for growth. But what we started to do was then think, hang on a minute, we've talked about the speed, we've talked about the stations, but what does that mean to the person on the street? A lot of people just don't go to London. They're not interested in the 49 minutes. But also, for what about those areas in this region that didn't have a station? We had a particular interesting discussion with the leader of councils in the Black Country, because they could see no benefit whatsoever of having HS2, because they didn't see what they were going to get out of it, which was a good point. So we started to look at what does that mean for them. So in our growth strategy, what we looked to do when we submitted this to government was actually break the mould a little bit, because what we realised was the exam question wasn't about the first two slides, it was about how could we help justify the economic case for HS2 to the wider region. So we came up with these ideas. People, business and place in that order, because we felt that we needed to deal with the people first, then look at the business aspect, and then look at what that meant in regard to the place. The key aspect for us was putting that strategy in the middle was we realised that one of the opportunities for this region was, for the future, was to develop and export both products and skills internationally around the world. As it was mentioned earlier, we're at the forefront of this technology. We are going to build the best high-speed railway in the world. That creates a massive export opportunity for us going forward. People. What did we start to think about with our people? Well, when I first came on board in 2014, HS2 were all over the news. We need 34,000 engineers. The thing for us was, well, not everybody wants to be an engineer. I started my career in aerospace engineering. As you can see, hang on. I'm not there now. But the point for us was, what else did it mean for this region? We have some of the lowest educational attainment in this country. So what did it mean to those kids? What jobs did it offer to those kids? So we started to look again of what HS2 was, and it is the biggest excavation programme in Europe. So we started to look at JCB. What did it mean for JCB? What did it mean for JCB supply chains? What did it mean for people who wanted a career in this sort of industry? that you are all here to represent today. So we started to look at the opportunities for digger drivers. There's a worldwide shortage of archaeologists that is out there. So if you know anybody who's going to university, get them to do archaeology, because it's a guaranteed job straight away. Here in the Midlands, we will have the biggest exhumation of cemetery in UK history, because we've got to move a cemetery that dates back to the 13th century because of HS2. So we started to look at all of these things, and so we've started working with the joint ventures, Lang Murphy, with Connect. We started to work with HS2 directly. We're also working with the National College for High Speed Rail to understand, okay, how can we support businesses to address these skills? And we're starting to put together now packages and opportunities that bring all of these things together so that we can support business to get the people they need into those jobs to help us maximise the opportunities created by HS2. I went in London yesterday, and it was interesting that some of the presentations previously, they were talking about the future of the construction industry and the skills that they needed. And some of them I found quite interesting. One was drone pilots. There's a shortage of drone pilots apparently, and people are looking to recruit them. They were also talking about remote robot operators. There's something you've just talked about, Tim. In the package, they gave us a drone in our little goodie bag. You know, all the goodie bags we get. They gave us a little drone to take home. First thing I did was give it to my 11-year-old daughter and say, "Here, Emma, get on with this as a future job in this." We look at it now, and I'm an oldie. You know, when I left school, there weren't computers. Now, we all criticise our kids for using PlayStations and sitting at home in the bedrooms and not going out and playing on the bikes. But actually, some of these things will actually lead them to future careers in this industry. And that's what we've got to think about. So I'm not going to tell them off quite so much anymore. But, well, she broke the drone straight away, so I don't know about that. But the thing is, we have to think about these things differently. As Tim was alluding to, the world is changing very quickly. Things are changing very quickly. The skills we need today are not the skills we need tomorrow. We talk about the wet trades at the minute. Yes, we still need wet trades, and we're struggling to get people into them, and we need to work harder to get people into them. But we also have to think further forward. What is it that we're going to need in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? This is a 40-year programme, and it creates a whole lot of opportunities for future generations. There are jobs that are going to be out there that we don't know exist yet. That's the secret of this. That's the opportunity to leave a legacy for our future generations. Businesses. We had all sorts of fun and games with the businesses. What we looked to do was understand, okay, if we start to look at the excavation, we start to look at those things, we looked again at JCB and the supply chains, because a lot of the JCB supply chains is centred around this region. What did that mean for them? So we started to look at that wider picture. So we started to look at tiers 2, tiers 3, so on and so forth. When we submitted a proposal to government, what we did was we looked at how could we bring business support together to help businesses in this region maximise the opportunity for HS2. I come from a manufacturing background too. I come from a lean manufacturing background. And one of the things that we were always conscious of is a lot of businesses have got their heads under the bonnet, making their businesses succeed day to day. They don't have opportunities to go out and look for big contracts like this. They just don't have the time, they don't have the resource. Our view was, how can we support businesses in this region to do that? What is it that we need to do to help them? So, when we looked at the excavation side of things, with businesses like A-Plant and other things, we again looked at the supply chain. What did it mean? How could we help them? And we came up with this programme. And this programme was submitted to HS2 Limited in about October 2014. And they said, you're 2 years too early, which I'm quite pleased about, really, because we're able to stand here today. We've got a pretty well-developed programme. We started to look at business engagement and diagnostics and support for businesses, understanding what is it that businesses need, how can they get the help they need, how do they know what it is they need. That's one of the biggest challenges I always encountered within the private sector, was actually businesses didn't know what it was that they needed in the first place, other than money. Well, sometimes it's not money. We looked at access to finance, ironically. We have set up 2 funds dedicated here in the West Midlands. There's the Business Growth Fund that is administered by Birmingham City Council, and there is the Rail Supply Fund that is administered by Finance Birmingham. The Business Growth Fund can give grants up to £167,000 for businesses who wish to engage in the HS2 programme and other environmental programmes. The Rail Supply Fund can offer loans up to £2 million to support companies to get involved in the HS2 contract. It's dedicated and we've run it by the Rail Supply Group, the Automotive Club of Great Britain and various others. And these are endorsed by the government and recognised by the government. I'm not going to talk about BIM, because I believe somebody's coming up next to talk about BIM, so I'll leave that one alone. But the most interesting one is the HVM procurement tool. It's called HVM City. There's a colleague of ours who's just scuttled off out the back of Len. He runs a company called Compete For. HS2's contracts will all go on to Compete For as the same as the Olympics. What we've done is, using the growth hubs across the region, that's in Greater Birmingham, Solihull, Coventry and Warwickshire and the Black Country, we've connected directly through those growth hubs to Compete For. The idea being we make it easier for businesses to access those contracts that are being let by Lang Murphy and others as we move through the construction phases. So when people register for their growth hubs, they can access this information. In doing that, they can also access information around the finance support. They can also access information about business diagnostics and engagement support. We're also working with Compete For at the moment to look at a way in which when those companies who bid for work within the HS2 contracts, when they're unsuccessful, we're able to feed back to companies to tell them why they didn't get it. That's the added value in my view. That's the bit that adds that value for everybody, because it's all well and good going and not getting it, but if nobody ever comes back and tells you why you didn't win it, you're never going to improve. So part of our programme is to design that and put that out for everybody to use as we go forward. And we think that adds value to it. Basically, what we were looking to do was create a one-stop shop. I know it's a cliche and everybody uses them. But for us, what we recognise is, and again, Tim touched on it, you stole most of my thunder actually, Tim, is that we see this as the industrial revolution of the 21st century. That's what we branded our supply chain programme within the HS2 submission to government, because that's what it is. Some of these towns in this region only exist on the map because of the industrial revolution, the previous industrial revolution. This is what we believe is the next opportunity for us. So it's a one-stop shop. It offers as much support as we can, and we're looking to make sure that we develop and grow businesses in this region to maximise the opportunity, because we've only got one go at it. I'm sure these slide pack will be circulated round out to everybody, so we won't run through these now. But there are the specific contact details for those businesses who are interested in getting the support. As I say, the Combined Authority recognises that this is an opportunity. What we're keen to do is make sure that we support all businesses achieve the potential that they have within this region to maximise the opportunity HS2 presents to us. As I say, if you do have any questions, there are the contact details for those respective organisations, and I'm sure they'll be sent through you in a pack of information going forward. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Craig. I don't know if you noticed there was a tweet there about far too many men, we need more female presenters. So I thought I'd pick up on it because it's actually a really good point. In the construction industry, the last time I looked at the stats, I think there are only 11% females in the industry, which is absolutely pathetic. And I just really wanted to make the point that as part of the Connect Alliance journey, we're absolutely committed to improving that dramatically. If I can just quote a stat from A-Plant, I think in our last intake, 150 apprentices, we achieved 22% females. Now, that may still not be a fantastic number. It's still not acceptable. But I wanted to make the point that we're on a journey, we're committed to it. I know some of my colleagues and some of the other Connect Alliance members are part of a body called Women in Construction. And again, they're looking at how we can improve and open up more opportunities to females within the construction infrastructure and supply chain. And again, just as I just mentioned, that we will be developing our own thoughts as to how we improve that ridiculously low 11%. I know Sarah Sala, the HR director at A-Plant, will be working with, I think, Dimitar from Hilti in driving that program forward. Okay, thank you, Craig. That was a really, really great presentation. And it's really great to have a progressive authority acting as a facilitator, that one-stop shop hub, to answer all the questions as to how we navigate through and maximise the opportunity here in the West Midlands. So thank you.